This is Pro Football Perspective. I am Nathaniel Bradley. Whether you're at home, work, the gym, in your car, or wherever you are, thanks for taking time out of your day to spend here. Pro Football Perspective is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. And of course, be sure to follow on Instagram at Pro Football Perspective. What's happening? The GOAT group head count ticked up to 11 with our last episode and is currently comprised of Terry Bradshaw, John Elway, Bart Starr, Brett Favre, Johnny Unitas, Tom Brady, Dan Marino, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Kurt Warner, and Peyton Manning. Kinda hard to think that there are 5 quarterbacks with career individual production scores better than these guys I just rattled off, right? Well, before we get to exactly who those 5 quarterbacks are, first, a reminder that we are working with 9 categories within era-adjusted statistics here. Those 9 categories are as follows: yards per attempt, net yards per attempt, adjusted yards per attempt, adjusted net yards per attempt, completion percentage, touchdown percentage, interception percentage, sack percentage, and quarterback rating score. These are measured against the league average over the 3-year period around the season being evaluated. So, 140 and above is an all-time season, 130 to 140 is an elite season, 120 to 130 is a great season, 110 to 120 is a good season, and 105 to 110 is a solid season, 100 to 105, that's an above-average season, 100 is always league average, and below 100 is a below-average season. All right, now I think we are ready to go. Number 5 on our GOAT group list here, Captain Comeback, Roger the Dodger, Captain America. Roger Staubach was a superbly athletic quarterback that produced an extremely high level of individual statistical output that translated to great team success. That's basically jargon saying he was good. His production for era-adjusted statistics reflects like this. Staubach had an 11-year career, but only 8 qualified for evaluation, where he started 7 games or more. The 1969, 1970, and 1972 seasons were not counted, as he primarily was a backup his first 2 seasons, and he missed the majority of the 1972 campaign with a separated shoulder. So, Staubach's sample size suffers as a result of this, but in 8 qualifying seasons, Staubach's worst individual production score was 1974, when his overall score was 101.56. His best output was 1971, with an overall score of 130.22. Altogether, Staubach had 1 above-average season, 3 good seasons, 3 great seasons, and 1 elite-level season. Per category, Staubach's career averages are as follows: yards per attempt, an average score of 120, which is 4th among the GOAT group. Net yards per attempt, a score of 117 puts him 5th in the GOAT group. Adjusted yards per attempt, his highest score out of all of these categories, 125, and that's 3rd in the GOAT group. Adjusted net yards per attempt, a score of 123, is 2nd in the GOAT group. Completion percentage, a score of 115, puts him at 9th in the GOAT group. Touchdown percentage, a score of 114.13, puts him at 6th in the GOAT group. His interception percentage score was 118, that's 4th in the GOAT group. His sack percentage score was 95, that's his worst category, and that ranks him 13th in the GOAT group. His quarterback rating score of 123 is 3rd in the GOAT group. Overall, across all seasons that qualified for evaluation, across all categories, Roger Staubach wound up with a 117 overall score. So, Staubach was an amazing player. He scored high across several categories. No surprise that his mobility got him into trouble sometimes with a sack percentage that was below league average during his seasons. But still, this guy performed at the highest level of any quarterback in the 70s. Enough said. And that brings us to number 4 on our list, Joe Cool. Considered the GOAT by most for a good 20 years after his retirement, and still by many to this day, Joe had a remarkable balance of statistical output and team success throughout his career. His back injuries and the 49ers' eventual transition to Steve Young means that the 1991 and 1992 seasons were not counted in this evaluation. So Montana had 13 of 15 seasons that qualified for scoring here. His final season was his worst individual production at 106.89, still a solid season. His 1989 season was the best individual production that he had throughout his career with a score of 135.56. All in all, Montana had 1 solid season, 9 good seasons, 2 great seasons, and 1 elite level season. On a per category basis, Montana scored high across the board here, as you might expect. Yards per attempt, he was at 111 for his career. That's 10th in the GOAT group. Net yards per attempt at 116. That puts him at 6th in the GOAT group. Adjusted yards per attempt, a 117 score. That's 6th in the GOAT group. Adjusted net yards per attempt, that's 120 score there. That's 3rd in the GOAT group. His completion percentage score, 124. That's his best category. Ranked him 3rd in the GOAT group. Touchdown percentage score of 110. That was actually his worst category of all here, and that puts him 12th in the GOAT group. His interception percentage score of 118 puts him 5th in the GOAT group. His sack percentage score of 111 puts him 6th in the GOAT group. And his quarterback rating score of 122 is 4th in the GOAT group. So across all qualifying seasons and across all categories, he had an overall individual production score of 117.01. So, what you're looking at here is a highly accurate, mistake-free, super efficient. I can go on and on and on. It's hard to put into words really how revered Joe Montana is. For many, many people, this is where the rankings stop. End of the show. Nothing left to talk about. This is it. He is the guy. And it's Joe. He's it. The guy was just that good for that long that for many people, and rightfully so, no argument, you're not going to hear me poke fun at anybody that thinks he's the greatest of all time. I mean, they have plenty of reason to believe that. So from an individual production standpoint here, he scores, extremely well, and he ranks number 4 on this particular metric. Now moving forward on to number 3 in this list here, Slingin' Sammy. Who? Says a lot of people listening right now. Sammy Baugh. This dude revolutionized the forward pass. Sammy Baugh was throwing touchdowns before World War II. He played quarterback before quarterback was ever even a term or a position. He played his entire career prior to the sack becoming an official stat. So more on that in a second. We're really only going to evaluate 6 statistics, leaving out net yards, adjusted net yards, and sack percentage. Sammy Baugh was the most difficult player to determine which seasons qualified, which don't, simply because starting at quarterback wasn't a thing. When he started playing football, quarterback was not a position. And even when it became an actual position and term, Sammy Baugh played running back, defensive back, punter too. So he may not have started at quarterback, even though he played quarterback and threw the majority of the passes during that particular game and or season. So rather than trying to cherry pick and choose which seasons to include, I just included all of Sammy Baugh's seasons where he was the primary passer for his team. So get ready. I mean, this might be the most controversial entry into this GOAT group, and I can totally understand why people would look at it sideways. So get ready for it. We're going to go through it, and then we'll address everything at the end. On a season-by-season basis, some of these numbers are going to sound crazy. Just keep in mind that these are scores relative to the league average at that particular time, as every score is that we've discussed so far in this series. So Sammy Baugh's 1937 season is kind of the outlier of all outliers. His overall score was 160.83. That's 160. His worst season was 1951, where his overall score was an 89. Overall, Baugh had 2 below average seasons, 4 solid seasons, 3 good seasons, 3 great seasons, 2 elite seasons, and 1 all-time season. On a per-category basis here, yards per attempt, Baugh had a score across his career of 113. That's 7th in the GOAT group. Net yards per attempt, again, there were no sacks recorded during his career. We have no stat information there, so we didn't grade it. Adjusted yards per attempt, a score of 117 puts him at 7th in the GOAT group. Adjusted net yards per attempt, again, was not scored because it involves sacks. Completion percentage, let me break all this down here. Completion percentage is where Sammy Baugh shines for his era. Okay, he produced an overall score across his career of 132.60 for his career. That obliterates the league average year after year for his career, okay? He was 32% better than the league average. Okay, again, that doesn't mean he had a 32% higher completion percentage. It means relative to the league average, okay? So for his career, he was only a 56.5% accurate passer, okay? His completion percentage wasn't going to wow anybody. That's way below league average today. But during that time, the league average for completion percentage was 43%. So, I mean, it's impressive to say the least that he was able to achieve numbers that high. Keeping in mind, if somebody was going to be that much better than their peers today, they would throw 85% today. That would be their completion percentage. So I get it. Hey, he played in a different time. The forward pass was just being, really kind of put into play throughout games and seasons. So it was very new, but he was much, 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 much better than his peers. His touchdown percentage, 104, that's his worst category, and it ranks him 14th in the GOAT group. His interception percentage of 120.67, that's second among the GOAT group here. Sack percentage, again, no statistics available there for his career. And his quarterback rating score of 121 is sixth overall in the GOAT group. So that gives Sammy Baugh an overall score of 118.28. Now that's across his entire career, and across 6, not 9 categories, only 6 categories there. So Baugh was a truly special player in his day, his accuracy in particular standing out. His propensity for finding the end zone through the air was well above the players for his day, but not at a very high clip compared to the GOAT group. Some of these figures can obviously be taken and probably should be taken with a grain of salt. After all, Sammy Baugh threw more interceptions than touchdowns for his career, and his famed accuracy was just 56.5%. But let's keep in mind he practically invented the quarterback position, and he was way ahead of his time, and this is only one metric. So on we go. Number 2 on our list, as if the topic in and of itself isn't controversial enough, I'm going to bring in the original QB controversy catalyst into the fray, Steve Young. He had an amazing career by any measure, but what his individual production compared to his peers is going to show is that his career is also one of the biggest what-ifs of all time. Now, his USFL stats are not included, so Young has 9 seasons out of his 15-year NFL career that qualified for evaluation. Seasons omitted from evaluation were his rookie year, when he didn't start enough games, his seasons as Joe Montana's backup, and his final season, which was cut short due to concussions. His worst season was 1986 with Tampa Bay, when his overall score was 86.44, well below league average. Young's best season was 1994, with an overall score of 134. Altogether, Young had 1 below average season, 2 good seasons, 4 great seasons, and 3 elite seasons. On a per-category basis, his marks compare favorably to just about everybody. Yards per attempt, Young had a score of 125 for his career. That puts him second in the GOAT group. Net yards per attempt, he had a score of 122. That's first overall in the GOAT group. Adjusted yards per attempt, he had an overall score across his career of 126. That's also second in the GOAT group. Adjusted net yards per attempt, 124.78. That's his best category and best in the GOAT group, first among all these qualifying quarterbacks. Completion percentage score of 128. That's second in the GOAT group. Touchdown percentage score of 119. That's second in the GOAT group. Interception percentage score of 113. That's seventh in the GOAT. Sack percentage score, 96 for his career. That's 12th in the GOAT group. That's Young's worst category. And yet again, as we've seen with some of the other mobile quarterbacks we've discussed, typically they have a lower score here. It's hard to account for the plays that they made with their legs, but they definitely take more sacks, that's for sure. Young's quarterback rating score for his career, 128. That's second in the GOAT group. So across all categories and his qualifying seasons, Young had an overall score of 120.57. Not too shabby. So Young's marks show just the absurd level in which he played at. His weak point, as we pointed out, was taking sacks. Seeing his individual production with this metric really, I think, gives him credit that often eludes him. This, like we've said a dozen times already, this is just one metric. This isn't the be-all, end-all, but it's nice to see him at or near the top of a list when it comes to ranking against, the all-timers, because he really played at a level that was tops for the 90s. There was nobody even close. So hats off to him. And finally, we have arrived. The number one quarterback in terms of era-adjusted production is automatic Otto. Otto Graham took the baton from Sammy Baugh as the best QB of his day. Graham not only filled up the stat sheet, but had a tremendous level of team success throughout his career, which, of course, that is another evaluation on a later episode. Focus. Like Baugh, sacks were not a statistic, and so we will only be evaluating 6 categories here with Otto Graham. Graham's worst season was his 1950 season, where he still had an overall score of 108.83, while his 1946 season produced a whopping score of 142.17. Overall, he had 2 solid seasons, 2 good seasons, 3 great seasons, 3 elite level seasons, and 1 all-time season. When you take a look at Graham's production on a per category basis, it goes as follows here. Yards per attempt for his career, he had a score of 130. That's first overall in the GOAT group. Net yards per attempt, we have no data for. Adjusted yards per attempt, an overall score of 131 for his career, and that's his best category and best in the GOAT group at first. Adjusted net yards per attempt, we have no data for. Completion percentage score of 123 puts him 4th in the GOAT group. His touchdown percentage score of 111 puts him 10th in the GOAT group. His interception percentage score of 122 is first in the GOAT group. Sack percentage, of course, we don't have. His quarterback rating score of 128 was also first in the GOAT group. His overall score across 6 categories and his entire career here, 124.45. So basically, Otto Graham put on a clinic for 10 years compared to his counterparts. Not much he didn't excel in. Some still call him the GOAT. And at least if we're utilizing era-adjusted statistics, they'd be right. The dude could flat out play football, period. And now our GOAT group is complete. These are the 16 guys that we're going to be looking at in other categories going forward, and they will rank differently, I'm sure, going forward across a lot of different categories and metrics. For era-adjusted stats, here's how they stack up. Number 16, Terry Bradshaw. Number 15, John Elway. Number 14, Bart Starr. Number 13, Brett Favre. Number 12, Johnny Unitas. Number 11, Tom Brady. Number 10, Dan Marino. Number 9, Drew Brees. Number 8, Aaron Rodgers. Number 7, Kurt Warner. Number 6, Peyton Manning. Number 5, Roger Staubach. Number 4, Joe Montana. Number 3, Sammy Baugh. Number 2, Steve Young. And number 1, Otto Graham. So, before people start losing their minds and going crazy, I'll repeat what I've said I don't know how many times now. This is just one evaluation. It's just a tool to look at individual production compared to their peers at the given time they were playing. If you were going to break it down maybe differently, rather than their overall score, and you wanted to look at how they ranked across categories and average their rank, that does change a few things here and there, simply because some guys may score really, really high in one category, but across the other categories, their rankings are actually lower compared to the other members of the GOAT group. So if you wanted to do that, here's how it would shake out. Terry Bradshaw still had the lowest average ranking between these 16 guys here. Then it came John Elway, and then Bart Starr, and Brett Favre, and Johnny Unitas. So the first 5, nothing changed there, okay? Now it starts to become a difference here. So number 11 in terms of average ranking across these categories, Dan Marino. Number 10, Tom Brady. Number 9, Drew Brees. Number 8, Kurt Warner. Number 7, Aaron Rodgers. Number 6, Sammy Baugh. Number 5, Joe Montana. Number 4, Peyton Manning. Number 3, Roger Staubach. Number 2, Steve Young. And number 1, Otto Graham. So what that did is it played, shuffled a few different guys in different spots, but the top 2 remained the same there in terms of their average rankings. You still wound up with Young and Graham at the top of those rankings. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this series, and I've brought it up a few times, this is not a perfect metric. There are flaws in it. I want to kind of dive into some of those. I'm sure I can be alerted to others, and I'm happy to take that into account. I'll tell my staff to put together a list of the things that I did wrong here. Well, for one, era-adjusted production scores do not take into account situationally based stats. One metric out there, DVOA, you can find it, I believe it's from Football Outsiders, that scores things situationally. What I mean by that is if Steve Young completes an 8-yard pass on 3rd and 15 in 1995, that is considered a better score than Bart Starr completing a 7-yard pass on 3rd and 6 in 1964. Okay, so that's the way it's scored within this metric. And, that's not great. That's not perfect. That's a flaw, in my mind at least. DVOA is a great scoring system that takes those two situations into account, and they would award Bart Starr a higher score because he achieved a first down with his pass. You see what I'm saying? So DVOA also utilizes league average just like this as its baseline, so it's era neutral. DVOA is not perfect, though. They have flaws in that statistic as well. And one thing, or one reason why I didn't utilize it is it's only been tabulated so far back to 1983. So half of the players I wanted to look at, I've got no data on if I wanted to use that metric, okay? Another area that I think as I went through these numbers and broke them down more, an area that I think could have been handled better or differently is this group of stats does not weight touchdown percentage, interception percentage, or sack percentage. I think those should be weighted. I believe those 3 categories impact any given game more than the other categories. Quarterback rating, I still don't understand how that particular rating has been come up with, but despite its odd formula, it does essentially take into account all the other yardage and completion percentage scores. And so I think that adding that in with touchdown percentage and interception percentage and sack percentage, those four categories with quarterback rating, those would actually, I think, make a higher impact and give you a better idea of how a player was impacting team success. So that would be great, I think, to take a look at it that way. Another thing to keep in mind is these stats do not have any kind of mechanism to measure quarterback rushing or fumbles. Two aspects, again, that can greatly impact the outcome of a game. We saw it again and again with some of these mobile quarterbacks we discussed. They had low sack percentage scores, but they don't get any credit within this metric, at least, for the first down runs that they achieved scrambling, or the touchdown runs that they scrambled for, or just extending plays. So that's something that I would love to, I'm open to suggestions or finding a way to kind of work that into the equation. Same thing with fumbles. Kurt Warner ranked pretty high on this metric. He had multiple injuries to his hands over his career and was a notorious fumbler. So that's something that isn't taken into account in this metric. So that's something that I would like to look at also down the road. Longevity is not taken into account here. And of course, that's a big deal. Any player performing above league average for a long period of time is by definition great. Average is the majority of players. They fall below average. So if you're above league average and you do it for a long time, I'm looking at you, Tom Brady, then there's a heck of a lot of value there. And this metric doesn't take that into account. So that's, again, just some things that this metric doesn't really cover. And I've said it over and over again. This metric is not the whole story. It's just a part of it. Now, the elephant in the room is the actual players included in my evaluation here. I chose 16 people. I didn't have any, rhyme or reason to it besides my own opinion of whether or not I would include them. Some of these players, I look at them and I say, I don't think they should be considered the GOAT. But again, I tried to think, well, there's probably somebody out there that would have a legitimate argument saying they are. So that's why I put them in here. But I do want to, have some fun with this a little bit here, because stats never lie is a lie. Okay, stats are going to tell whatever truth you manipulate them to tell. And so let's tweak these a little bit here. Let's take a look. If you're someone that says Sammy Baugh and Otto Graham didn't play against real competition and the game was basically a different game back then, I wouldn't really argue with you. I think, Sammy Baugh and Otto Graham played in a different time, and it's fair to say that they didn't have the same level of competition that the rest of these players did, and they didn't have the same game. It literally was a different game, I think, in so many ways back then that I'm not going to argue with you there. So if you don't want to count Sammy Baugh and Otto Graham, okay, I'll go with it. If you're someone who wants to say you can't be the GOAT unless you played at least 10 seasons, starting at least 7 games, I would probably argue with you a little bit on that one, but I'll play along. I get it. Part of being great is being available. And what do they always say? The greatest ability is availability. So if you're available for 10 seasons, okay, let's go with that. So if you take those two aspects into account, you take out Baugh, you take out Graham, then you remove Warner, Young, and Staubach. Here's how it would shake out from an overall score perspective. Number 11, Terry Bradshaw. Number 10, John Elway. Number 9, Bart Starr. Number 8, Brett Favre. Number 7, Johnny Unitas. Number 6, Tom Brady. Number 5, Dan Marino. Number 4, Drew Brees. Number 3, Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, Peyton Manning. And number 1, Joe Montana. Now, that's how they would score or rank based off of their overall scores. If you take these 11 guys, okay, again, we're removing Baugh, Graham, Warner, Young, and Staubach. If you take just the remaining 11 and you take a look at where their average ranking was across these categories, here's how it would shake out. You've got Bradshaw at number 11, Elway at number 10, Starr at number 9, Favre at number 8, Unitas is at number 7, Marino number 6, Brady number 5, Breeze number 4, Rodgers at number 3, Montana at number 2, and Manning is now number 1. Okay, so that's one tweak you could do. Maybe you wanted to only look at those high impact categories that I had talked about a few minutes ago. So all you want to do is look at touchdown percentage, interception percentage, sack percentage, and quarterback rating. But we're going to include everybody now, okay? If you did it that way, well, Starr is number 16, Bradshaw is number 15, Elway is number 14, number 13 is Favre, number 12 is Warner, number 11 is Unitas, number 10 is Staubach, number 9 is Breeze, number 8 is Young, number 7 is Marino, number 6 is Brady, number 5 is Rodgers, number 4 is Baugh, number 3 is Manning, number 2 is Montana, and Otto Graham again worked his way to number 1 somehow. Okay, let's take a look at how their average ranking rather than their overall score would break down. Okay, so average ranking only across 4 categories here, or 3 if you're Baugh and Graham. Touchdown percentage, interception percentage, sack percentage, and quarterback rating. So average ranking, you would wind up with number 16 Bradshaw, number 15 Elway, number 14 Starr, number 13 Favre, number 12 Unitas, number 11 Marino, number 10 Warner, number 9 Breeze, number 8 Baugh, number 7 Montana, number 6 Staubach, number 5 Manning, number 4 Brady, number 3 Young, number 2 Rodgers, and number 1 Otto Graham again. Otto Graham, man, that guy must have been pretty good. If we want to have even more fun, I say fun. I mean, I don't know if this is really fun for everyone. This is really nerdy. This is like the kid that asked for a calculator for Christmas. Oh, I'm going to crunch so many numbers. But let's have a little more fun, okay? Just a little. Let's remove those quarterbacks we talked about from consideration that didn't play 10 seasons and played in the dark ages, I guess we'll call it. So if we don't count Otto Graham, Sammy Baugh, Kurt Warner, Steve Young, or Roger Staubach, and we only look at the high impact categories, okay, of touchdown percentage, interception percentage, sack percentage, and quarterback rating scores, here is what we are left with. Number 11, Bart Starr. Number 10, Terry Bradshaw. Number 9, John Elway. Number 8, Brett Favre. Number 7, Johnny Unitas. Number 6, Drew Brees. Number 5, Dan Marino. Number 4, Tom Brady. Number 3, Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, Peyton Manning. And number 1, Joe Montana. If we want to look at rather their overall score, we look at their average ranking across the 4 high-impact categories and are only including the quarterbacks that played 10 seasons or more or not, in the 30s and 40s. Here's how it would shake out. Number 11, Bradshaw. Number 10, Elway. Number 9, Starr. Number 8, Favre. Number 7, Unitas. Number 6, Marino. Number 5, Breeze. Number 4, Montana. Number 3, Brady. Number 2, Manning. And number 1, Aaron Rodgers. So, you see, we can really tinker with these quite a bit. You don't have to take the surface level of what I'm telling you of just, oh, here's my rankings, da-da-da-da-da-da. You can take the scoring system and eliminate some people's inclusion in it, or take a look at their ranking rather than their score. You can take a look at just certain categories. Maybe you want to have a discussion with a coworker about, oh, I just want to talk about touchdown percentage. Who puts the ball in the end zone best? There's a lot of different ways to look at it. And I think that's all I'm trying to achieve here is get people to look at things a little different way. And with that, I think we have put a bow on this one. Thanks again for joining Pro Football Perspective. Our next episode will be coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. Pro Football Perspective is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Also be sure to follow on Instagram at Pro Football Perspective. I am Nathaniel Bradley. Deuces.